Hello and welcome to all you Dungeon Masters, players, and RPG-curious spectators alike. Once again, my name is Corey, and I'm the top tortoise here at Snake Neck Games. Today, we're going to start using the deck of many dungeons to run through a campaign with a character that we have created using the first edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons rules. I do have some rules that I used in order to create this character. I'd like to share them with you first. For starters, the only books we're going to allow are core. The Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. We didn't use any Unearthed Arcana, no survival guides. We didn't use any of the information in Dragon Magazine. The reason that we're doing this is because we want to show that the deck of many dungeons is system agnostic, but we don't want to be too complicated with it. First edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons is complicated enough without adding layers and layers of rules. We're going to generate our attributes using method 1, which is 4d6, drop the lowest die, and arrange to taste. We're going to do that 6 times, once for each attribute. This is done before the race and class are chosen. We are not going to choose race and class before we generate our attributes. We're not going to use any aging modifiers for the race. They can get to be a little too complicated, and again, we don't want to add layers and layers of rules unnecessarily. Racial minimums and maximums are in play, as well as level limits should our character survive and continue on and gain levels. For class, any is available except the assassin. I personally have never played an assassin, and I do not like the assassination rules, so I'm not even going to go there. Multi-classing will be allowed, but at character creation, dual classing is not. We're going to start this at first level, see if we can get our character to live and advance, and we're going to get maximum hit points at first level. Roll the gold for class. Some later editions just gave you a bunch of equipment. We're going to roll gold. It's no fun if you just get everything handed to you. All the equipment from the Player's Handbook is allowed, but we are not going to be purchasing any magic items at any point during character creation. There will be an opportunity to buy some later, and we'll get into that in a few moments. In the event that we end up with a wizard, the wizard will start with 6 first level spells from the core handbook, Player's Handbook that is. We're not going to allow dungeon, dragon, modules, Unearthed Arcana, any of that stuff for spells at character creation. We're going to go pretty basic. And any spell component that has a listed cost greater than 1 gold piece must be purchased. Right? This is very critical. We don't want to just be able to cast spells willy-nilly. We're going to have to track components. As far as the dungeon goes, when you're playing a solo game with a deck of many dungeons, there's no real rules as to how big the dungeon can be. You want it to be 1 level? Fantastic. You want it to be 1 room? Fantastic. You want to go 17 levels deep and test your mettle? Great. For the purposes of this campaign, all dungeons will have a level equal, will have a number of levels equal to the PC's level plus 1. So a first level character, the dungeon has 2 levels. Now there are some quests that indicate an item or gold is on a specific level, and we're going to add 1 to that level. So for example, one of the quests is that 200 gold pieces is rumored to be on level 2. That makes it level 3, which means if we draw that card at first level, the dungeon is 3 levels. Okay, we don't want to die right away, but we're not going to make this an easy speed run. Okay, we want this to have some meat on its bones. As far as the dungeon rooms go, if a card is drawn, the character enters that room, unless they are otherwise prohibited by a lock, a trap, a monster kills them, so on and so forth. But if I move a specific direction and draw a card, the character enters that room regardless of what's in the room. We're not going to go with 2-room dungeons. Okay, the dungeon must extend in at least 1 direction, more than 1 room beyond the entrance, whether that's north, east, or west, or south, depending upon how the opening room is drawn. We're not just going to get a 2-room dungeon and be like, oh, we're going down to the next level. That's not going to happen. Locks and secret doors may only be attempted once per dungeon. This differs from, excuse me, this differs from the first edition rules in that you can try a lock or try to find a secret door once per level. There will be very few times where you leave the dungeon and come back and you are a different level. We will get into that in a little bit. But for the purposes of this campaign, locks and secret doors can only be attempted once per dungeon. If I fail to find it, I fail to find it. That's just the way it goes. All monsters are going to have stats that are going to be pulled from the Monster Manual 2, or the Fiend Folio, where applicable. We're not going to grab monster stats that are from Dragon or Dungeon, Unearthed Arcana, any weird books that came out. We're going to, again, we want some depth, but we don't want to add layers of rules that are unnecessary. We are going to generate treasure for monsters based on the treasure types found in the specific book they're found in. I will get into how we're going to track that and when we're going to generate them and all. But we are going to get treasure for the monsters in addition to XP. For combat, initiative is going to be static. It's only going to be rolled one time. That is a D6. The lowest roll wins. In the event it's a tie, we roll again, and again and again and again until somebody wins initiative. If we get into a situation where I've rolled like a dozen times and it's been a tie the entire time, I'm just going to go first. I hope it doesn't get to that. Hit points for monsters are going to be randomly determined based on their hit die, using a D8. That's canon rules. And then rounds will alternate back and forth until one side or the other is dead. Or the PC is so injured they have to retreat. Sorry about that. Sometimes my mouse goes weird. Experience. All defeated monsters, traps, and acquired treasure will be tracked. I'm going to use Notepad++. I'm going to write them down. This monster, this was their hit dice, this was their hit points, and the hit points for experience points are very important. We'll get into that when we start calculating XP. XP will be calculated and acquired upon arriving back in town. Instead of going through and calculating experience points all the time with every monster, trying to track gold separately, it's easier if you just track it all at once and divvy it all out at once. I don't want to spend an unnecessary amount of time in between each encounter calculating experience points. Get the encounter, finish it, write down what was found, do it all back in town at one shot. You cannot rest in the dungeon. You can retreat back to town. I mentioned earlier in the event our PC is just mortally wounded. You can leave the dungeon. However, the layout of the dungeon will not change. But the dungeon will restock any monsters that you've already defeated. Treasure rooms, those rooms that are strictly treasure, will not restock. But monsters will. We're not going to roll for wandering monsters. There's enough death and destruction in the dungeon without adding another layer of, do you run into something, right? Training is not required for leveling up. It's a rule that I do not like, and I will never use it, whether that's in this solo campaign or in any other game. Once you level up, any increases that require a die roll will be rolled. For example, hit points. When you hit level 2, if you're a fighter and you need to roll a d10, I'm going to roll it, and we're going to stick with whatever gets rolled. So if I roll minimum hit points for leveling up, that's it. That's the character gets. You don't always get what you want, but you will get what you need. When it comes to being back in town, any normal equipment from the PHB can be purchased for book price. Hopefully we'll find some treasure. We'll get some money. We'll have to, replace weapons, get better stuff. And now that we know what's in the dungeon, we can, plan for it a little better, right? Healing potions, first level spell scrolls. Scrolls of protection may always be purchased at the mercantile. Nothing beyond that as far as magic items can be purchased. If we want something specific, we're going to have to find it and then roll it randomly. Any magic items you do find may be sold for the book value in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but you forfeit any experience value for doing so. The book is very clear that the only time you gain experience points for finding a magic item or treasure, apart from coins and gems, is when you keep it. If you get rid of it, if you sell, you find a hat of comprehending languages, and you sell, you don't get the experience points for it. You found it, you sold it, you got the money. So you have to be very careful about that. Town is just referred to as town. We're not going to name the place. Not yet, anyway. I might at some point. Anybody has suggestions, good town names you want, send them in. I'll consider it. Maybe we end up with a poll, and whatever the number one choice of anybody watching this is, that's what we'll name it. But for now, it's just town. It's located somewhere in Greyhawk. Pick somewhere in one of the duchies or this counties. It's your choice, not mine. It doesn't matter to me. It's just town is located somewhere in Greyhawk. We're not going to go to Saltmarsh or Castle Greyhawk or Isle of Dread here, so it doesn't matter where we're located. NPCs are available for hire using the cost table on page 29 of the DMG. So we can, if we run out of the dungeon because we're getting our behinds handed to us by a few zombies, we can go back to town and be like, we need to hire a fighter, we need to hire a wizard, we need to hire somebody. And we'll pay book prices for that. And then we'll pull one randomly from the Rogues Gallery, one of the TSR products for first edition. It's got a whole bunch of NPCs that are available. So those are the rules. That's what we're going to play by. That's what we're going to live by, live or die. Right? First edition Dungeons and Dragons. To spare you having to watch me roll a bunch of dice and go through my thought process as to what I want to create for a character, I've already done so. So let's introduce you to the character. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce Zodwood Nimblepot, first level Halfling Thief. I did roll everything randomly. We did end up with some interesting stats. And this is the character that is going to be going through the dungeon. We do have a full character sheet. This is a fillable character sheet. It's in Adobe PDF format. You can find this out on the internet. I will put hopefully if I remember, the link to the description, or the link to the site that you can find this at in the description. But here we have, Zodwood Nimblepot. There's me, first level Halfling Thief. All of his attributes. He does end up with an 18 dexterity because of his race. I did roll a 17 plus 1 to dexterity. Minus 1, I believe, was to strength. You'll notice the 5 charisma. This is the epitome of the dump stat. Because this is simple dungeon combat, and there's really not a whole lot of, reactions going around. The 5 went into charisma. But this does mean I can only hire 2 hirelings at one time. So if we go through the hiring of NPCs, because I'm getting my behind handed to me in the dungeon, I can only hire 2 people at one crack. And even then, they may get into combat and be like, no way, we're leaving. So it may come into play, it may not. I will not lie, I gave myself maximum hit points at first level. I do not wish to die at first level. It could very well happen, but I do not wish to die at first level, so I gave myself maximum hit points. Basic weapons, short sword, club, sling, ranged, slashing, pierce, or bludgeoning, right? It's got infravision to 60 feet, so I didn't need to buy torches. I did purchase equipment. I'm not tracking encumbrance. I do like encumbrance when I'm running games for players. I'm not going to do it here. I'm going to use common sense. I'm not going to, with a 13 strength, I'm not going to try to carry the ornate wardrobe out of the dungeon from 6 levels down. Okay, it's not going to happen. I will try to police myself. If I'm going through this and somebody says, somebody's watching this says, hey, you got way too much stuff you're trying to carry, call me out on it. I'll pare stuff down. I will get rid of stuff. I will sell whatever I have to get down to a reasonable thing, because I'm not going to be perfect, and I can admit that. We do have some money left over from purchasing, right? 9 gold, 3 silver. This is not enough to do much with. I'm hoping to actually find some stuff in the dungeon once we get there. No experience. I need 1251 to get to the next level. Character sketch. He's 3'9". He's not even 4 feet tall. He weighs 85 pounds. He's kind of fat for being a halfling. And he's 44 years old, which is normal age for a first level halfling. All right? So, that's Zodwood. Those are the rules. Let's get to playing, shall we? Okay, so here we have the deck of many dungeons opened in Vassal. This is going to be our playing surface. For those of you who watched the first video that I put out regarding this, 2 clarifications right away. First and foremost, we are not going to be using the target deck, even though it is here. First edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons does not use target numbers for opening locks and picking pockets and such. There are thief skills that have a percentage chance. The Dungeon Master can impose bonuses or penalties based upon the situation. We're going to go with straight, whatever Zodwood's ability score or percentage is, that's what the target is. Secondly, I only had a singular token, blue background with a little E in it to denote enemies. That has changed. I have gone through the entire deck. There should be about 156 enemies all in here. I didn't need to go that overboard, but I thought if I'm going to do it, I may as well go all the way. So let's pull the first room, the entrance to the dungeon, as it were, for Zodwood. Okay. We need a quest idea, D8 plus 1. So Zodwood is a first level character, right? So D8 plus 1. What is our quest? That is a 5. Ooh, I found a map leading to the dungeon. PCs, right? That would be Zodwood. Zodwood, being the curious halfling thief that he is, found, and I'm using air quotes, a map to the dungeon, and he's going to go investigate it, right? Okay, so let's grab the rogue token. Again, these are named after 5e character classes. Rogue in first edition technically is the rank title of a first level thief, right? So we're just going to grab the rogue token. We're going to drop him right here. He waltzes down the stairs and says, ho ho, ha ha, here I am. So we're going to go east. This is technically to his left, which means we should encounter monsters almost right away. For those of you who are aware of first edition Dungeons and Dragons, it seems like the meme for all the old modules is left is monsters and right is treasure. So we're going to Zodwood's left, or to the east. Again, when I pull a card, he enters the room, regardless of what may be in there. And this, of course, if there is a locked door that he has to try to get through and he can't get through the door, then he doesn't go in. But otherwise, he enters the room. Ho ho, ha ha. Here we go. We'll put this back the normal way. So there's the room. There are no monsters, but there is treasure here. So we immediately bust the meme. He is going to walk in here, and you'll see the first treasure chest in the upper right is 3d6 gold pieces. It's only a singular door, it's not locked, so he's going to be able to collect that. And then we have to try to get through the very hard lock, and I'll walk through what his percentage for open locks is and whether he gets in there or not. So let's first and foremost line this up. For those of you who are wondering, as you see me struggle with trying to line this up, I could very well set a grid behind the playing mat that would snap the cards to it. I may do that for future games to make that easier, but for now we'll just eyeball it. So Zodwood walks in here, opens the door. Oh look, there's a chest with 3d6 gold pieces. 5, and 3 is 8, and 5 is 13. So what I want to do is I want to track this, that's what he acquired. So I'm going to open up Notepad++. I'm going to drop that number into a new document. I'll show you what I'm talking about here in just a second. Okay, so here we are in Notepad++. I've marked down the 13 gold. I'm going to use this document so that when we get through the whole dungeon, it'll have monsters that we faced, their hit dice, their hit points, any treasure types that they may have had, any individual gold, or there are rooms that have magic items in them and scrolls and such. We'll mark down what we found, and we'll go through collecting all the treasure. Once we get to town, we'll roll all of that separately, and then we will go through and assign experience points and see what happens with Zodwood. But that's what we're going to do for this. Now, there is a secret door here. Zodwood has a 1 in 6 chance on a d6 of spotting it. He does not. He is oblivious to the secret door. Now, in a normal dungeon, we would tell the dungeon master, oh, we're going to go check the other door. We don't need to. We know there's nothing in there. Again, this is a solo campaign. You can get as involved or in depth with it as you possibly want. However, we do stop right here. There is a locked door. As a matter of fact, I will turn this so you can actually see this. There is a locked door that he is standing in front of, and he needs to try to pick it in order to get to the goodies on the other side of the door, right? So Zodwood is not showing up. He does have an open, there you go, open locks of 45%. I'm not sure exactly why these are all not displaying properly, but he has an open locks of 45. So we're going to roll percentile dice. It's 2d10. The first number is the 10s, the second number is the 1s, right? And we'll see if he opens it. 11. 1 and 1, 11. He picks the lock, which is outstanding because there's 1d8 times 10 gold and 1d8 times 100 silver. So that's 80 gold and 800 silver. And now just to prove that it's not always going to roll an 8, there's a 7, there's a 6, there's a 3. Okay? Just so people don't worry that, oh my goodness, no. That's 80 gold and 800 silver. So I'm going to go put that on the tracker, and I'll be right back. Okay, so of course the very next question is how is he carrying all those coins? I'm not worried about encumbrance. I'm going to use common sense here. It's entirely possible that he may have to leave the dungeon after the first level, put the money in a bank, upgrade his equipment, whatever it happens to be, and then come back in. Remember in the rules, for those of you who are paying attention, the monsters on a dungeon level, or in the dungeon itself, should I retreat, restock. The treasure does not. So if I come back here, I can't continuously mine this room for a boatload of money, okay? So you don't have to worry that that's going to happen. If I do leave the dungeon because I feel like I'm carrying too much, and at this point, 800 silver coins, that's, imagine you're carrying $8 in pennies. That's a lot of weight. I mean, it's several pounds in your pocket, right? You're carrying $8 in pennies. So that's effectively what he's doing. It's not going to slow him down. I'm not going to worry about it. So we're just going to continue on. We could see if we find this secret door, right? A roll of 1 on a d6. He actually spots it and goes in here and sees this tunnel ends. He spends a little bit of time going back and forth. He will eventually assume, without finding it, that there is a door here. There's no reason to have a tunnel in here for no purpose. So he will eventually figure it out, but he's not going to worry about wasting time searching for it. Well, we can't go any further to the east, so now let's go west. Yank the next room. It is a T intersection. So we could have, we are going to end up going both west and south. So let's put these together. Now, there could be something in the hallway. Roll a simple D10. It's a 7. Oh, there's small patches of dried blood. Something could have come through here bleeding. What? And what cut them? Were they being chased? We don't know. The dungeon may actually tell us what's going on. There's also the sounds. There's no sound. It's pretty quiet in here. Zodwood can hear his own breathing, and that is pretty much it. So which direction should we go? West or south? Well, we're going to let the dice decide. We're going to roll a d10. Odd is west, even is south. We're going west. Pull the next room. So there is supposed to be a trap. D4 plus PC level. Now, Zod was only first level, so the maximum that we could roll is a 5. 2 to 5, there's nothing there. Zodwood lucks out at this point because he's only first level. If I pull this card and Zodwood is second, third, fourth level, now we start running into, well, there's traps and he needs to search for and find them, or he's going to end up taking damage, or in the event of one of these being poison, there are cards that say poison, he could very well die, but there's nothing there. There's a chance for him to find the secret door. And if he does, there's more money to be found. He does not find the secret door, though. I only rolled a 5. So he comes in here and he sees there's a bunch of rubble. Looks like what may be the leftover remains of a fire on the north wall. Who knows? But that's it. There's nothing there. So let's head down to the south. Pull the next card. Now we're going to move all of this up a bit because the room is a tunnel that continues to the south. Now, once again, are there monsters? D6 plus PC level of 1. Maximum we can roll is a 7. 2 to 8 is nothing. So there's nothing here. Nothing for Zodwood to fight anyway. Does he spot the secret door? No, he does not. Does he spot the one on this side? No, he does not. This is where elves in this dungeon are going to have a massive advantage. You can already see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 secret doors that could have potentially be found at this point. Zodwood found one of them. Elves in first edition are going to have a killer advantage when it comes to finding secret doors, and potentially in other editions if we get that far. So Zod was just going to continue on to the south, pull the next room, yet another hallway that continues going south. We're going to end up having to, we're going to move all of this over this direction. I want to give myself as much space as I possibly can. Right? That doesn't look good. I kind of want this centered. That would be far better. Okay, so once again, are there monsters in here? No, we can't roll high enough to get one. So we just put the tunnel here. And Zodwood continues on his merry way to the south, around the corner, over the river and through the woods. Pull the next card. Here we go. So there's definitely a monster in here. It's either D6 plus 1, maximum 7. We can only have a drow or a swarm of bats. I'm going to once again let a D10 decide as to what this is. Odd as the drow, even as the swarm of bats, it is a swarm of bats. Which is kind of a bummer, actually, because you can't really surprise a swarm of bats, and I don't think they have any treasure. However, we're going to go here. We're going to go grab the swarm of bats token. And I am going to go read up on the swarm of bats, the monster, real quick. I will come back and we'll see what Zodwood ends up doing here. Okay, so as it turns out, the first edition monster manual and Fiend Folio do not have normal bats in them. Neither also has a swarm. The Monster Manual 2 has the ordinary bat with a number pairing of 1 to 100. Sorry, I almost said 1,000. But they don't have an actual listing for a swarm. Now, the ordinary bat does state they will attack only if cornered and forced to. If startled, bats tend to become frightened and confused and will swarm around and fly into things, putting out torches, confusing spell casting, etc., if humans are concerned. Their sonar allows them flight in total darkness. Under fine flying conditions, their armor class becomes a 4. In certain large caverns, there could be as many as 1,000 or more bats. They also have no treasure type. A bat has 1 to 2 hit points. A swarm could have between 100 and 200 total, depending upon the number of bats that there are. In the case of this particular dungeon, we are not going to disturb the swarm of bats. Zodwood has a chance to surprise any opponent that he runs into, 1 to 4 on a d6. That's a halfling ability. That has nothing to do with him being a thief. That drops to 1 to 2 if he has to open a door. Zodwood is not stupid. He's going to open the door and he's going to see a whole bunch of bats, and that's going to be it. He will literally close the door immediately. 1 or 2 of them might escape through the door before he's able to close it, should he disturb them. We're not even going to open the door. It doesn't make any sense for him to go into this room. He'll open the door. Oh my goodness, there's a whole lot of flying mice, and close the door. And wouldn't you know it, that is the end of the first level of the dungeon. I am missing a room over here. What happened to my room? There we go. See? There we go. That is the end of the first level of the dungeon. So what I am going to do is I am going to use Dungeon Scrawl at Roll20. I'm going to actually map this dungeon out because I would like to keep a diary of sorts for Zodwood. And I'm going to map that out. When I am done with that, I will show you the map that I have created with all the notes that he writes on it. And then we will get on with heading to the second level of the dungeon when that is done. I will be back shortly. Okay, so as you can see here, we've used Dungeon Scrawl to create an image of the map that of the first level of the dungeon. Zodwood has put, a few of his own notes on here where he entered the dungeon and the dried blood spatters he found, and the room full of bats. One thing that I did in here that I did not show you in Vassal, and we'll get there in a moment, is that I added where he would go down to the second level. According to the rules of the Deck of Many Dungeons, when you have exhausted all potential tunnels, you're supposed to draw from the King deck and replace one of the rooms you've already been in with it. I don't like replacing rooms. I have a feeling personally that it just destroys what we've just accomplished. So I actually tack it on where I think it makes the most sense, which I did way over here on the end of the western tunnel. And you can see that I did that here in Vassal. So we now have our space to get down to the second level, which is where Zodwood is now headed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of this over, give myself some space as much as I can possibly muster. This is going to come out a little weird. Some of these cards are just not going to line up perfectly when you move them. So there are several ways that you could very well potentially generate the entrance to the second level. You can just pull a random room. That's where the stairs go down into. You can pull a king, because although it's technically the quest goal or the stairs down to the next level, if you're only doing a 2-level dungeon, you can say, well, this is where he came down and this is the room. Or you can do what I'm going to do, and I'm just pull an ace card, because that gives us, hey, here's the stairs and we're coming down into the dungeon. So Zodwood drops all the way down here. We got 3 ways to go. You know me, I'm going to go east. So we have T-junction hallway. What's in it? There's dried blood. More blood seems to be a recurring theme. We had dried blood up here on the first level in the T-junction. We've got dried blood down in the second level. And it smells like excrement. It's always fun when you walk into a room and you see dried blood and it doesn't smell very good. Well, let's just keep going east for the time being. Here we go. So we have a room with a monster in it. 2d7, or I'm sorry, 1d6 plus 1. We can get a value of no higher than 7 because we're only first level, right? So we're going to face an Axebeak or an Aarakocra. Neither is friendly. We're going to actually make it the Aarakocra because the Axebeak, I do not believe Zodwood stands a chance against that monster. So just put that right there. Now, we're going to drop the Aarakocra in here. And it's still not going to be friendly because the Aarakocra does have flight. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to go check the stats for the Aarakocra, and then we'll come back and we'll do combat. So give me a few moments. I'll be right back. Okay, so the Aarakocra, I'm not exactly sure what the correct pronunciation of that is. Has an armor class of 7, and it has D8 plus 2. It is a 1 plus 2 hit dice, so it has D8 plus 2 hit points. It has 4 hit points. If I could type. So here's what we're going to do. Zodwood is going to attempt to surprise, right? He gets a 1 to 2 on a D6 because he is going through a door. If he surprises, he is going to move into melee range and try the backstab. If he does not, he's going to sit by the door and fire a sling bullet at this thing. He does not want to get into melee combat too often. He wants to try to stay ranged as much as possible. So he surprises the Aarakocra. He now gets to backstab. First level 1E Thief gets plus 4 to backstab. If he hits, it's automatically double damage. 13 plus 4 is a 17, which is an armor class of 3. He hits. The short sword does D6 points of damage. He does 5. The Aarakocra is smoked. Zodwood, the one mechanic that he actually needs in this dungeon, worked. He first level thieves generally do not do well by themselves, right? They rely upon sneaking around and getting lucky in first edition, and he did it. The Aarakocra is deceased. So we have to go mark this on our tracking sheet so we can get the appropriate amount of experience points later as well as treasure type. So I'm going to go do that. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've added the Aarakocra here. One thing about the Fiend Folio that you may not find in every entry in the actual monster manual is that the Fiend Folio tells you how much experience points you get. In this case, the Aarakocra is 28 experience points plus 2 points per hit point. So that's an additional 8 or 36 total. I wrote it out as 28 plus 2 with the number of hit points. So I could show you that that's what the book says. It also has treasure type D. So write that down. We're going to have a good journal here going at a later point for, Zodwood when he says, I came across a birdman and killed it. So let's go backwards now. We can go north right here. North, Miss Tasmacher. Aha. And we have another treasure room with a hard lock. Zodwood needs to pick the lock in order to get in there, and we really want to get him in there because he could very well come out with some more money. He can't get to the magic items. Dungeon level's not high enough. Best we could do at this point is get a 9, and he ends up saving versus poison or dying. So let's drop the room right where it belongs. If I could, there. Now, if you remember correctly, from this room way back here, Zodwood has a 45% chance to open that lock. He rolled a 55. He does not get it open. He is oblivious to whatever's in this room. We know because we can see the card. And if you're playing by yourself, you could absolutely say, oh, I fudged it. And I mean, that's beyond the point of this, but, he has no clue. So we'll just keep going on to the east. And the room ends. And look at this. Another lock with the potential for more treasure. Pulling a lot of these. So we'll line this up. Now you can see here that this kind of covered up part of the room. We will end up having to adjust this by about 5 or 10 feet when we dungeon scroll it, just to make sure that we get the whole thing. But we'll try to pick this lock. 45%. 19, it is picked. We're going to go write that down. $19 out of 189. That would have failed. So roll a d8 plus a dungeon level, so we can get up to a 9, right? And see if Zodwood has to deal with a poison needle trap or if he finds some money. 4 plus 1 is 5. He ends up with more cash. D6 times 10 gold pieces and a 50 gold piece gem. So 60 gold pieces and a 50 gold piece gem. Let's write that down. I'm going to put that right here in this room, right? So 60 gold. I want to make sure that in the event, we do get experience points for the picked lock here, that we, excuse me, that we make sure we get it from the appropriate thing, right? 150 gold piece value gem. This dungeon is apparently a treasure hoard of some kind. We've come across multiple treasure rooms. Fought only one monster to this point, and now that I said it, it's jinxed. So Let's continue on, shall we? We're going to go west this time. We're going to traipse all the way back through to here, back through the blood-spattered, foul-smelling T-junction hallway, and pull the next room. And it's just a hallway. There's no monsters in here. We can't roll above an 8, so keep going west. Okay, so we have a room with a double door, and we have to go through the double door in order to continue. There's a monster. It's either a swarm of bats or a kenku. If it is a swarm of bats, remember what happened down here. We're like, no, we're not going to deal with that. That will actually be very painful if this becomes a swarm of bats. We want to continue on, so but we're still going to let the dice decide. I mean, we could very well roll a giant hyena or a bugbear. So let's roll the d6, see what we get. 1, 2. It is either a kenku or a swarm of bats. We are going to let the dice decide. That is another swarm of bats, which makes sense. We've come across a swarm of bats already. This is not our first swarm of bats that we've come across. We are in a dungeon. We did fight one other flying creature, so underground flight is a little wonky, but we'll make it believable. Zodwood is going to save this for later. We are going to have to come back here and see if we wish to continue. But now we're going to go north. So there is potentially a trap here. So what we're going to do is we are going to roll to see. Well, we'll do this in order. Line the room up. Does Zodwood notice a secret door? He does. Look at that. Oh, the tunnel ends in a secret door. We're not even going to roll for the trap. He completely avoided it, and he will completely avoid it every time he comes through. But you know what? Just to be fair, we will see what happens. D4 plus his level. 3 plus 1 is 4. There's no trap anyway. But he found both secret doors. Pull the next room. And it's the end of the dungeon, at least going this direction. There is a monster there. So let's roll that d6. It can only be a swarm of rats or a bullywug. We can't get above a 7. So odd and even. Even, ooh, a 10. That is a bullywug in that room. Let's grab the bullywug token. Now we are faced with a very interesting decision here. We've got multiple choices, things we could do at this point. We can attempt to take out the bullywug, risk everything that we've gotten to this point for some frog-like being. We can, excuse me, we can come all the way back down here to the swarm of bats, see if we could sneak through and get to the other side of that room. I'm not too sure about our chances for success. Moving silently is one thing. You really can't try to hide in the shadows against an opponent that's got sonar. Bats don't see the same way that we do, so they're not reliant upon light. So that's kind of wonky at best. There's a side entrance right here, as you can see. We could just walk out right there, or we can go all the way back up to the first level and walk out. Now, if we leave the dungeon, I'm going to put this out there. If we leave the dungeon, we can get our experience, spend our money. We can hire mercenaries to come back down in here with us and clear the rest of the dungeon out. Potentially hire another thief to pick this lock. Get some archers and soldiers and stuff to deal with these two swarms of bats. And as I mentioned in the rules, we can, this room will repopulate with a monster, right? Zodwood is not stupid. I realize that, if we were in a group setting, if I had, fighter, cleric, mage with me, right? If I had those three with me, we would absolutely go in, we'd kill the bullywug, we'd walk through the two swarms of bats, we would clear this whole thing out. Zodwood's not stupid. He is not going to risk his life for further glory, knowing that he got lucky with the Aarakocra. The bullywug is not exactly a slouch, and he doesn't wish to deal with bats. So at this point, Zodwood is going to leave. But here's what we're going to do. Zodwood's going to leave. I'm going to drop the map in Dungeon Scrawl, which will take me a bit of time. I am going to calculate the treasure that was generated from the Aarakocra, treasure type D. We'll get back to town. I'll apply everything. I will tell you exactly what happened. And then we're going to leave it up to the rest of the group. We're going to leave it up to you guys. Do you want Zodwood to come back down into this dungeon, or do you want him to go into a different one? That will be up to you. I'll give, the poll and see what happens. I will be back a couple hours for me, 10 to 12 seconds for you. Okay, so here's the created map of the second level of the dungeon with some notes by Zodwood. You'll notice a couple of things right over here in the room with the bats. We have the door, but we don't know what's on the other side of it because we haven't gone that way yet. And over here by this treasure room, there was this locked door, and we don't know what's on the other side of that. Even though we drew the card and we can see what's there on the card, Zodwood technically doesn't know. So his map is, as of right now, incomplete. It will only be completed if he comes back or if somebody else decides to go down here. And with that, like I said, Zodwood is going to retreat to town. He is not stupid. He is going to collect his spoils for where he's been, live to see another day. So I did do all the calculations. I do have that written down in Notepad. Right, here's the list that we were tracking. He earned a total of 1,069 gold pieces, 1,069 experience points. This was from 36 of it directly from the Aarakocra, 1 plus hit dice, which is 28, and then 2 per hit point. 233 from the gold that he acquired, and the silver. Remember, this silver, that's technically 80 gold, right? 50 from the gem. You do get experience points for the gold piece value of the gem. I did randomly determine it was a star rose quartz. Semi-precious stone. Zodwood likes it. It's worth 50 gold pieces. He'll carry it in his pocket. And then we have the magic items. I did go through treasure type D. I did randomly determine what was in the Aarakocra's treasure room, right, for defeating him. There was no coin at all. There was a chance to get copper, silver, electrum gold, platinum, gems, and jewelry. None of that. I rolled so poorly that I wondered if I could actually toss the digital dice across the room, like I used to do when I was a kid. and not getting the rolls I wanted. However, there was a chance at magic items, 1 potion and 2 randomly determined items, which I hit on. The potion turned out to be the potion of ESP, which is nearly useless in the solo campaign. ESP allows you to read the surface thoughts of creatures in range for the duration of the spell or potion in this case. I'm not going to necessarily be using it because I'm both the player and the GM. There's really no motives for the monsters other than kill the intruders. So it's nearly useless. However, I'm not going to just get rid of it just so I can say I got 750 gold or whatever it happens to be for the potion. I decided to keep it. It's one of those items that were this a real campaign, you would absolutely keep it and use it on the very next NPC you came across. So I kept it, and that was worth 500 XP. The next item that I rolled is going to dramatically change the campaign. Zodwood is not a melee fighter. He's a thief. He's supposed to stay, in ranged combat and only get into melee combat when he attempts to backstab like he did with the Aarakocra. And he rolled a dagger +2, +3 versus creatures larger than man-sized. This now gives him a way more effective melee weapon, should he need it. It effectively drops his Thacko to 18 for man-sized creatures, 17 for those larger than man-sized, and it increases the minimum damage that he will do. Damage on a dagger is D4 for smaller, medium-sized, and D3 for creatures that are large or greater. This is actually less overall damage up front than the short sword that he would use, but that +2 changes that minimum damage on small medium to 3, and it changes the damage on large creatures to a minimum of 4. That is huge, especially for a character who needs all the help he can get in combat. I actually did, when we got back to town, took 100 gold out of what he earned and spent it to make sure that this was identified. He doesn't know what it is until it gets identified, and in order to do that, the identify spell, a pearl worth no less than 100 gold pieces is required, so I assumed, okay, we'll just 100 gold. You'll notice that though that there's only one item here, and that's because I ended up rolling some ridiculous random items out of this treasure type, none of which I felt was within the spirit of this campaign. He rolled, in no particular order, a shield +1, which he can't use, which would have then converted into something like 2,500 gold pieces. Horseshoes of a Zephyr, which he would never use because we're not going to be on horseback at any given moment, and that would have converted to, I think, 7,500 gold pieces. The Ring of Invisibility, which would have completely unbalanced and broken the game. He is a thief. The Ring of Invisibility is a major item for any one E group. Any one person in the group gets their hands on a Ring of Invisibility, it can alter campaigns. And at first level, it's far too much. It really is. It's just too much for Zodwood. And the Candle of Invocation. The Candle of Invocation is only usable by clerics, which would have converted that to 5,000 gold pieces. I would go back to the Ring of Invisibility. That would have converted to something like, because he would have kept it, something like 2,500 or 5,000 experience points. He would have shot up to like 3rd or 4th level. Again, too powerful. The Candle of Invocation, that's way too much money. He can't use it, so he would have had to have gotten rid of it. After rolling those 4 items, I literally decided, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to keep the second random item or 3rd item overall, whatever way you want to look at it. I'm just rolling too ridiculous. At this point, I was literally just hoping, oh, well, maybe I'll roll that or maybe I'll roll this. When I start doing that, it's time to go. We're just going to give it up. So he only ends up with the potion and the dagger. The potion, not necessarily usable in this campaign. The dagger, amazing item for Zodwood at this point. So we return back to the dungeon. This is where we sit. He has left. I'll move his token all the way back over to the first level entrance because he has left. I do have this saved in case he decides to come back to this dungeon, which leads me into the segue for the end of the episode. Zodwood has successfully completed the first random dungeon in this new solo campaign. And he hasn't fully completed it. We still have this locked room that he can't get in. We still have the bullywug that's here that he didn't fight. And we have this area over here behind a door on the other side of a swarm of bats that he decided not to go mess with at this point. So, will he come back? Should he come back? Does it feel incomplete just having the maps and being able to sell or copy them for whoever wants them to say, hey, we want to go where you went? I'll put that to you, the viewers. Any of you dungeon masters, players, or RPG curious spectators, do you want him to go back? Do you want him to finish this off now that he has the dagger? Now that he has money to hire some mercenaries to come with him and help him clean out the rest of this room or rest of this dungeon? Do you want to see him do that? Let me know. Hit me up on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Send me an email. Link is in the first video in the series. Leave comments here. Hit me up on YouTube. Let me know. If enough people say, yes, we would like to see him go back and finish off the dungeon, we'll absolutely send him back. Remember, if he goes back, treasure does not restock. Monsters do. So this bullywug won't go away. These bats won't go away. But this Aarakocra will respawn. It's only fair, right? But let me know if you want him to go back. He'll go back. Otherwise, stay tuned. He's still first level. We're still alive, so we're still going to campaign. Until next time, thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been wonderful. We'll see you in the next episode.